You're nothing, until the Warrioress proved her wrong. The planet of Varka 9 was known for its red skies and hard people. The air was thin, the ground was sharp stone, and nothing lived there without learning how to fight. The ruling species, the Krell, believed only one truth. Strength decided worth. If you could not fight, you did not matter. Humans were new to Varka 9. They had arrived as helpers, builders, and technical support for a joint defense outpost. The Krell allowed them only because human tools and machines worked well. But respect was another thing. Respect was earned with blood and bone. Ethan Brooks stood near the edge of the main gathering yard. He wore a simple gray uniform, marked with the symbol of the Human Support Corps. His shoulders were relaxed, his hands calm at his sides. Around him, Krell warriors gathered in groups, tall and broad, their armored skin marked with scars and painted lines of rank. Their voices were loud and sharp, filled with pride. Ethan did not speak. He had learned long ago that silence could be safer than words. The gathering was called to welcome a new strike unit. Warriors from different clans had come together to face growing threats near the border worlds. At the center of the yard stood Kayla Var, one of the most feared warrioresses on Varka 9. She was taller than most Krell, her armor dark and heavy. Old battle scars crossed her arms and neck. Her eyes burned with confidence and fire. Kayla believed deeply in the old laws. Power was everything. Mercy was weakness. Those who could not fight should bow their heads and stay out of the way. She noticed Ethan because he did not bow. He was not being rude. Humans were not required to bow. Still, his calm posture caught her attention. She stepped closer, her heavy boots striking stone with purpose. "Human," Kayla said, her voice loud enough to turn heads. "What is your role here?" Ethan looked up at her. He met her eyes without challenge, without fear. "Technician," he replied. His voice was quiet but clear. "Equipment support." A low sound of laughter moved through the warriors nearby. Kayla looked him up and down. He was smaller than her, lighter, unarmed except for a simple tool pack at his side. "A tool carrier," she said. "Then you should remember your place." Ethan nodded slightly. "Yes." His simple answer annoyed her. "You speak like you understand war," Kayla continued. "But you are nothing. You fix machines while real warriors bleed." The word "nothing" echoed in the yard. Some Krell laughed again. A few humans standing farther back shifted uncomfortably. Ethan felt the familiar weight settle in his chest. He had heard worse, much worse. He did not answer. Kayla took his silence as defeat. She turned away, raising her voice to address the crowd. "Remember this," she said. "Strength keeps us alive. Weakness hides behind metal and wires." The warriors roared their approval. Ethan stepped back into the shadow of a supply tower. His face showed no anger, only thought. Years ago, on a different world, he had been called something else. Soldier. Survivor. Last one standing. Those names were buried now. Later that day, Ethan was assigned to assist Strike Unit 7, the same unit led by Kayla. The briefing room was cold and narrow. Holographic maps floated in the air, showing jagged terrain and hostile zones. Kayla stood at the front, pointing with sharp movements. "We move at dawn," she said. "Our path crosses the black ravines. Scouts report hostile life forms and possible raider activity." Ethan stood near a console, checking power readings. He listened carefully. "The ravines are unstable," he said quietly. "There were seismic shifts last cycle. Heavy armor may trigger collapses." The room fell silent. Kayla slowly turned her head. "Did I ask for your opinion, human?" Ethan met her gaze again. "No, but the data suggests risk." She stepped closer until they were face to face. "Data does not win battles," she said. "Warriors do." Ethan did not step back. "Data keeps warriors alive." A few Krell glanced at each other. No human had spoken like that before. Kayla's jaw tightened. "You will follow orders." "You will speak only when told." Ethan nodded. "Understood." Inside, memories stirred, smoke, broken ground, Radios screaming for help that never came. He pushed them down. That night the human quarters were quiet. Ethan sat on his bunk, cleaning a small multi-tool. Across from him, another human, Lucas Green, watched him. "You should be careful around her," Lucas said. "She hates being questioned." Ethan gave a small smile. "I noticed." "Why do you stay so calm?" Lucas asked. "After what she said." Ethan paused. "Because anger makes noise. Noise gets people killed." Lucas frowned. "You sound like someone who has seen real fighting." Ethan closed the tool and lay back. "Get some rest. Tomorrow will be long." At dawn, the unit moved out. Red light washed over the land as they marched into the ravines. The ground was uneven, sharp stone biting into boots. Kayla led from the front, confident and fast. Ethan stayed near the center, monitoring sensors and adjusting shields on the move. Hours passed. Then the ground shook. A deep rumble rolled through the ravine. Stone cracked. Dust filled the air. "Hold formation," Kayla shouted. The left wall collapsed without warning. Massive rocks crushed the rear path. The unit was cut off. "Report," Kayla demanded. Scouts shouted back. "Path blocked. No clear return." Ethan checked his display. Seismic activity increasing. "More collapses likely." Kayla ignored him. "We push forward." They moved deeper. Then the creatures came. They burst from cracks in the stone, fast and sharp, with armored hides and hooked limbs. Chaos erupted. Warriors fought fiercely, blades flashing. Ethan dragged a wounded Krell behind cover, sealing a torn armor plate with quick hands. "Stay still," he said. The Krell stared at him in shock. Humans did not run toward danger. The fight ended as suddenly as it began. The creatures retreated, leaving silence and blood behind. 3 warriors were injured. One could not walk. Kayla surveyed the damage. Her confidence dimmed slightly. "We move," she said. Ethan stepped forward. "We cannot. Another collapse will bury us. We need to stabilize the path." "With what?" Kayla snapped. Ethan pointed to the support packs. "With this." She hesitated. The ground shook again. Kayla clenched her fists. "Do it." Ethan moved quickly, directing humans and Krell alike. He placed charges, reinforced weak points, and rerouted power from shields to ground anchors. His voice was calm, steady. The ravine held. Hours later, the unit rested in a narrow shelter. Kayla watched Ethan from across the space. He sat on the ground, exhausted, helping bind a wound. She remembered her words from the yard. "You are nothing." For the first time, the thought felt less certain. Outside, the red sky darkened. Danger still waited ahead. And Ethan Brooks, the quiet human called Nothing, prepared for what came next. The next morning, the sun rose red over the sharp cliffs of Varka 9. The strike unit gathered at the edge of a deep canyon. Dust swirled around their boots as the wind cut across the jagged rocks. Kayla Var stood at the front, her armor shining in the light, her eyes sharp and cold. Ethan Brooks followed behind, carrying a pack of sensors and repair tools. He was quiet, careful, and ready. "We move in groups of 3, Kayla commanded. "No mistakes. Every step is a test. Any weakness will be punished by the terrain itself." The humans and Krell warriors nodded. Fear and excitement mixed in their expressions. Ethan's calm stood out like a smooth stone in rough water. He had faced real danger before, though these Krell had no idea. As they descended into the canyon, the path narrowed. Jagged rocks jutted from the sides, and loose stones threatened every step. Kayla led without hesitation, stepping over the gaps like she had walked here all her life. Ethan followed at a careful pace, scanning the walls with sensors for instability. "These readings are unusual," Ethan said quietly. "The canyon walls show stress fractures. One heavy step could trigger a collapse." Kayla glanced at him without slowing down. "Humans speak too much. Worry less, move more." Ethan made no reply. He kept his eyes on the ground, adjusting sensor drones to hover over dangerous sections. Hours passed. The sun rose higher, casting bright red light that reflected off the jagged rocks. The canyon seemed endless. The air grew thinner and even the Krell warriors began to tire. "We stop here," Kayla said finally, pointing to a small flat ledge. "Rest, prepare for the next stretch." Ethan checked his readings. The ledge was safe, though only barely. He crouched and pulled out a small energy shield, placing it against the narrow path. A few Krell grunted, surprised by the device. It was a human invention, simple but effective. One young Krell Tauren stepped closer. "Why bother human? Walls do not move unless the ground shakes." Ethan looked up calmly. "The walls move when heavy weight hits weak points. Better to be safe than buried." Tauren shook his head. "Humans are afraid of rocks." Ethan did not reply. Instead, he adjusted the shield and checked the sensor feeds. Kayla watched from across the ledge. She frowned. She hated relying on humans, but she could not ignore the results. The shield made the path more secure, and the sensors showed weaknesses she had not seen. They rested for a short time, sharing water and simple rations. Ethan tended to small injuries, cleaning cuts and bandaging bruises. He moved quietly but efficiently, never stopping, never complaining. "You are too careful," Kayla said finally, walking over. "Caution is for those who cannot fight." Ethan looked up. "Careful keeps fighters alive." Kayla's eyes narrowed. She did not argue, but she did not trust him either. Humans were strange creatures. Small, weak-looking, yet somehow they survived battles even the Krell could not. They continued down the canyon. The path became more dangerous. Stones shifted underfoot and the walls grew closer. A small mistake could crush anyone. Ethan placed sensors ahead, watching for vibrations, predicting collapses before they happened. He whispered instructions to the humans, guiding them around weak spots. The Krell followed reluctantly, surprised by the accuracy of his warnings. Then disaster struck. A loud crack echoed through the canyon. Dust and rock fell from above. Kayla shouted orders, swinging her blade to clear smaller stones. One massive boulder blocked the narrow path, cutting off the group. "This way," Kayla yelled, trying to push it aside. Ethan ran forward, checking sensors. "Too heavy. The rocks are unstable. If we move them carelessly, the canyon will collapse further." Kayla froze for a moment. She did not like being told what to do, but she also did not want to die. She looked at Ethan. He did not move with arrogance or fear. He simply gave solutions. "What do we do then?" she demanded. Ethan pointed to the narrow gap on the side. "We reinforce it, guide people through slowly, one by one. Keep balance, use ropes, and I will stabilize the rocks with charges." Kayla hesitated. She had not been taught to trust humans, but now she had no choice. "Do it," she said, her voice low but firm. Hours passed. Ethan directed the work. Ropes held warriors as they climbed safely. Small energy charges controlled the rockfall, preventing larger collapses. Even Kayla was forced to follow his guidance. She barked orders at the Krell and they listened, though with surprise. Ethan worked among them all, never rushing, always calm. Finally, the path cleared enough to continue. The unit was exhausted, bruised, and shaken, but alive. Kayla's eyes followed Ethan as he helped the last human through the gap. She could not hide a small respect forming. He had done what she never expected. A human had saved her warriors. "You did well," she said quietly, almost to herself. Ethan glanced at her. "We survived. That is what matters." The canyon grew darker as they moved deeper. Strange noises echoed from unseen corners. Creatures that thrived in shadows began to stir. Kayla led the front, but she glanced back often. Ethan was steady, never panicked, guiding the humans and warning the Krell. Suddenly, a pack of alien predators appeared. They were large, fast, and sharp, with claws designed to tear armor. The warriors raised their weapons. Kayla shouted commands, swinging her blade in a deadly arc. Ethan grabbed a small energy launcher, not a weapon for attack, but to create light barriers and confusion among the creatures. He moved calmly among the fighters, setting traps, guiding people to safety. The creatures lunged, but many were caught in his barriers, unable to reach the warriors. Kayla fought fiercely. She noticed Ethan carrying a wounded Krell, one arm on his shoulder, dragging him to safety while firing his device with the other. She could not believe her eyes. Humans were small, but they could act with skill, precision, and courage that rivaled the strongest warriors. After what felt like hours, the predators retreated. The canyon was quiet again. Dust settled. Warriors counted the injured. The humans were mostly unharmed, thanks to Ethan's quick thinking. The Krell were bruised and shocked, but alive. Kayla approached Ethan. Her armor was scratched, her chest heaving from exertion. She looked at him, trying to hide the doubt forming in her mind. You kept them alive," she said, her voice low. Ethan nodded. "We all survive, or none of us do." She turned her head, facing the cliff walls. Pride and anger fought inside her. She had insulted him publicly, called him nothing. Yet here he was, proving that strength came in more ways than raw power. The rest of the day was spent repairing gear, tending wounds, and resting briefly. Ethan moved among both humans and Krell, helping quietly, calmly. He did not boast, did not demand recognition, but the warriors could not ignore him. As night fell, the unit set up camp. The red sky turned black, stars bright like frozen fire. Kayla sat by the fire, sharpening her blade. Ethan sat nearby, checking sensors and making small repairs. She watched him in silence. She wanted to deny respect, but it burned quietly in her chest. He had done what she could not. He had saved her warriors when her pride had almost gotten them killed. "Human," she said finally, her voice soft. "What makes you so calm in danger?" Ethan looked up. "Experience, focus, and knowing panic helps no one." Kayla studied him. Humans were strange, yes, but perhaps they were stronger in ways she had never understood. The canyon ahead promised more danger. Tomorrow they would face it again. Yet for the first time, Kayla felt the stirrings of respect for the one she had called nothing. And Ethan Brooks, the quiet human, prepared silently. He did not fight for glory. He fought for survival, and he was ready for whatever came next. The next morning, a pale red light spread across the canyon. Dust hung in the air like smoke, and the walls seemed taller and sharper than ever. Ethan Brooks stood near the center of the group, checking the sensors and adjusting the energy shields he had set the day before. The humans moved quietly, following his guidance, while the Krell warriors sharpened their blades and adjusted their armor. Kayla stood at the front, as always, her eyes scanning the jagged terrain. She had changed slightly since the last fight. The pride she usually carried so heavily had a crack. A small, uncomfortable respect for the human lingered in her chest, though she refused to admit it. Strength for the Krell was measured in battle, blood, and victory. Ethan had proven something else, a quiet strength that kept warriors alive. They moved through the narrow canyon carefully. The air was tense. Every step echoed against stone, and the shadows hid dangers they could not see. Ethan stayed in the middle, monitoring the walls and guiding both humans and Krell. His voice was calm, almost soft, but every instruction was precise and important. Hours passed and the canyon opened into a wider plateau. Relief washed over some of the warriors. It was easier to move here, at least for a short time. Kayla allowed herself a small pause, scanning the horizon. "We are not safe," she said. "Reports show raiders in this area. They strike quickly and kill without mercy. Stay alert." Ethan checked his sensors. "They will come. The terrain gives them cover, but we can use the same advantage if we move carefully." Kayla glanced at him, annoyed. "Humans talk too much. Warriors fight." "And survive," Ethan replied quietly. He adjusted his device, sending small signals through the rocks to detect movement. As the sun climbed, shadows shifted. Suddenly, movement appeared on the far side of the plateau. Alien raiders, tall, sharp-limbed, fast. They moved in a coordinated attack, surrounding the unit almost instantly. Kayla shouted orders, swinging her blade in deadly arcs. The Krell fought fiercely, throwing themselves at the enemies with practiced skill. Ethan ran among the warriors, helping where he could. He used small energy devices to block the raiders' advance, guided the wounded to cover, and directed humans and Krell alike. A raider lunged at a young Krell named Doran. Ethan reacted instantly, knocking the raider aside with a metal rod and dragging Doran to safety. The Krell barely had time to react before the next strike came. Kayla was in the center of the fight, her blade moving like lightning. She cut down one raider, then another. Her breathing was heavy, but she fought with determination. Still, she was badly wounded, a deep gash across her arm and shoulder. Ethan noticed her struggle. He moved quickly, helping block another attack and signaling humans to assist her. Kayla hesitated for a moment, unused to needing help, but she could not ignore the danger. Ethan's calm guidance made the difference. The battle continued, long and brutal. The raiders were fast and fierce, but Ethan's strategies kept the unit alive. He predicted their movements, guided Krell and humans to better positions, and used his small devices to confuse the attackers. At one point, a raider grabbed Kayla from behind, throwing her to the ground. She struggled, but the raider was strong. Ethan ran forward, using a shock device to stun the raider and free her. She looked at him, breathing hard, shocked by what she saw, a human saving her life in the middle of battle. The fight finally ended as the raiders retreated into the shadows. The plateau was quiet, but the cost was clear. Several Krell were injured badly. Humans were shaken but mostly safe, thanks to Ethan. Kayla stood in the dust, her armor scratched and bloodied. She looked around at the scene and could not hide her surprise. Ethan checked on the wounded, moving calmly, carefully. He did not rush, he did not panic. He carried a fallen warrior to cover, applied quick medical patches, and reassured the frightened humans. His actions spoke louder than words. Kayla approached him finally, her chest heaving. She clenched her fists, unsure what to say. Pride told her to scold him, to act as if nothing had happened. But another voice, quieter and unfamiliar, told her he had done what she could not, kept her warriors alive. "You human," she said, her voice low and rough. "You did what no warrior could." Ethan looked at her without pride. "We all survive or none of us do." She stared at him, unable to respond. He did not look like a hero, only like a man who refused to give up. Yet his actions had saved dozens of lives. The truth of strength revealed itself in the quiet human, not in the loud roar of battle she had always believed in. The group took time to regroup. Ethan moved among both humans and Krell, checking gear, repairing weapons, and helping the wounded. The Krell looked at him differently now, some in disbelief, some in quiet respect. Kayla did not speak much. She only watched, her thoughts turning over in silence. That night the unit camped on a high plateau. The red sky had turned dark, stars scattered across the horizon like silver sparks. The air was quiet, filled with tension and relief. Kayla sat by the fire, cleaning her blade and nursing her wounds. Ethan worked nearby, checking sensors and small equipment. She could not stop looking at him. The one she had called nothing, the human she had mocked, had proven himself in fire and blood. He had acted with courage, skill, and calm determination, saving those who had been taught to rely only on strength. "Human," she said finally, her voice softer than usual. How did you do it?" Ethan looked up. "Experience, focus. Knowing panic helps no one." "And thinking about others first," Kayla frowned. "Humans are strange, small, weak, yet strong in ways we do not understand." Ethan nodded slightly. "Strength comes in many forms." She studied him, the firelight reflecting in her eyes. For the first time, she realized that raw power alone did not make a warrior. Endurance, strategy, and the will to protect others were just as important, if not more. Outside the fire circle, the canyon waited. Dangers still lurked, unseen and ready. Ethan and Kayla knew that the journey was far from over, yet the balance had shifted. The Krell had seen a human act as a true warrior, not with force alone, but with skill, courage, and heart. Kayla's pride was wounded, but a new feeling grew, a desire to understand, to learn from someone she had once called nothing. And Ethan, calm and steady, prepared for the next trial, knowing that each step forward could be more dangerous than the last. In the dark of the canyon, the quiet human stood among warriors, and for the first time, no one could call him nothing. He had proven that true strength could survive even the deadliest fire. The night passed, uneasy and quiet, but Ethan's presence gave the unit hope. Kayla did not speak much, but she watched him. She could not deny it now. The human had shown her a truth that could not be ignored, and tomorrow the canyon would test them all again. But Ethan Brooks was ready. He always was. The sun rose over the jagged cliffs of Varka 9, casting long red shadows across the plateau. Strike Unit 7 moved slowly down the canyon, still tense after the ambush. Kayla Var walked at the front, her armor scratched, her shoulder bandaged. She had spent the night thinking about the human who had saved her life and the lives of her warriors. Ethan Brooks walked quietly in the center, checking sensors and monitoring the path. He did not speak unless necessary, but his calm presence was felt by everyone. The Krell warriors whispered among themselves. Some were angry at Kayla, saying that she should have crushed the human under her strength. Others were confused, wondering why she had allowed a human to lead in small ways. Kayla ignored them, focusing on the path ahead. But inside she felt a tension she had never felt before, a mix of pride, shame, and curiosity. "Human," Kayla said suddenly, her voice sharp. Ethan looked up. "Walk beside me." He moved to her side. She did not speak for a moment, watching the canyon walls. Then she said, "You have survived. You have saved warriors. You have proven strength is more than muscle and blood. Yet I am still not sure. Do humans truly understand honor?" Ethan considered this. "We do, but honor is different from pride. It is not about proving you are better than others. It is about doing what must be done, even when it is hard." Kayla studied him. She could not deny the truth in his words. Yet for the Krell, honor was tested by combat. Strength and victory were proof of worth. She clenched her fists. "Then we shall test this. We will duel." Ethan blinked. He had expected challenges in battle, but not a duel for honor. "You want to fight me?" he asked calmly. Kayla nodded. "You have broken the rules of my pride, shown that humans can act as warriors, but I must test you. Honor demands it. If you survive, you prove more than you already have. If you fail, the laws of my people will stand." The warriors gathered in a circle on the plateau. Humans stood back uncertain. The Krell lined the edges, murmuring. Ethan did not show fear. He only prepared. Kayla drew her blade, its edge glinting red in the sun. Her movements were precise, practiced, deadly. "Remember," she said, "this duel is about skill, endurance, and heart. Do not show weakness." Ethan nodded. He had trained with soldiers, learned tactics, and survived impossible odds. He did not fear her strength, only her pride. He would show her a different kind of warrior. The duel began. Kayla lunged first, fast and fierce. Her blade moved like lightning. Ethan dodged carefully, stepping back, using the uneven ground to his advantage. He did not strike immediately, only waited for openings. Kayla's eyes flashed with surprise. The human moved with precision, not brute force but careful timing. They circled each other. Kayla attacked repeatedly, each strike powerful, meant to end the duel quickly. Ethan parried when necessary, blocked when he could, and used the terrain to avoid unnecessary damage. His goal was not to kill or dominate, but to survive and show skill. Sweat ran down Kayla's face. She had never faced a human like this. Small, seemingly weak, yet every move calculated, precise, and fast enough to keep her from landing a fatal strike. Each parry and dodge forced her to think, adapt, and respect his movements. The duel continued for hours. Dust rose from the plateau as their feet moved. Sparks flew as blades struck or missed. Warriors watched in disbelief. They had never seen a human stand against one of the fiercest warrioresses of Varka 9 and survive, much less counter. Kayla grew frustrated. Her strikes were powerful, but Ethan anticipated her moves. He did not strike out of anger or pride. He moved only when necessary, his mind calm and sharp. She lunged one final time, swinging hard, and Ethan sidestepped, causing her momentum to carry her forward. She stumbled but regained balance quickly. Then Ethan acted, not with strength but with precision. He used Kayla's momentum against her, guiding her safely to the ground with a controlled move. She looked up at him, breathing heavily, realizing she had been bested not by strength but by skill, patience, and heart. He extended a hand. "It is not about defeating you," he said quietly. "It is about surviving, learning, and protecting. Honor is more than force." Kayla stared at the hand, her pride warring with the truth. Finally, slowly, she took it. He helped her to her feet. Silence spread across the plateau. The Krell murmured, shocked. No one had ever seen the fiercest warrioress of Varka 9 kneel or accept defeat from a human. Kayla raised her head. Her eyes met Ethan's. She did not speak immediately. Then she said, "You have proven what I could not see. Strength is not just muscle. It is endurance, heart, and courage. You are no longer nothing." Ethan nodded. He did not smile. He did not need to. The moment spoke for itself. Humans and Krell alike understood something new. A warrior's worth was not only measured in the roar of battle, but also in calm, careful courage and the will to protect others. Over the next few hours, Kayla trained with Ethan. She wanted to understand his methods, his movements, his patience. He showed her how humans used balance, awareness, and strategy. She realized that he had survived battles where brute force alone would have failed. The Krell warriors watched in silence, some skeptical, some impressed. They began to whisper among themselves. Perhaps humans were not as weak as they had been told. Perhaps honor was more than strength and blood. The sun lowered, casting long shadows across the plateau. Ethan and Kayla stood side by side, watching the canyon below. Tomorrow, they would continue the mission. Dangers still lurked and more tests would come. Yet a bond had formed, quiet but strong. Kayla no longer saw him as nothing. He was a warrior in a way she had never expected. The humans gathered around Ethan, offering quiet thanks. He guided them calmly, checking their gear and injuries. Kayla observed, learning not only respect but also the value of quiet leadership. That night, the campfire glowed orange, throwing shadows across the warriors' faces. Kayla sat close to Ethan, not speaking much but listening. The silence between them was comfortable, a mutual understanding forming. She had been wrong and she would not forget it. The canyon was dangerous, filled with unseen threats. Yet for the first time, Kayla did not feel alone. She had learned that strength could be quiet, careful, and thoughtful. She had learned that a human called nothing could show her what true honor really meant. And Ethan Brooks, calm, steady, and patient, prepared for the trials yet to come, knowing that the next challenge would demand even more courage, wisdom, and heart than the last. The night was long, and the stars watched silently over the canyon. The warriors slept, but their hearts were changed forever. The human who had been called nothing had proven that true strength was more than muscle, more than blood. It was the will to endure, protect, and act with honor, even in the face of fear. And Kayla Var, once proud and unyielding, had learned the hardest lesson of all. Sometimes, the strongest warrior is the one who stands quietly, watches carefully, and refuses to give up. Tomorrow would test them all again, but for now, the lesson was clear. Ethan Brooks was no longer nothing. He was a symbol of courage that could not be ignored. The dawn came slowly over Varka 9, painting the canyon walls in red and gold. Strike Unit 7 moved cautiously through the jagged landscape. Dust and loose stones shifted under their feet, reminding them that danger was never far away. Kayla Var led at the front, her armor still scarred from the last duel, but her movements were smoother now, more aware. Ethan Brooks walked in the center, calm, steady, and alert, scanning the path ahead and guiding both humans and Krell with quiet precision. The past days had changed everything. Whispers among the Krell spoke of the human who had saved warriors, survived ambushes, and taught the fiercest Warrioress humility and strategy. Some Krell warriors still struggled with the idea, but even the most stubborn could not deny the truth they had witnessed. Strength was more than muscle, and courage could come in many forms. Kayla glanced at Ethan as they navigated a narrow ledge. She had trained beside him for hours since their duel, learning balance, observation, and patience. She could not hide her respect. He was no longer just a human to her. He was a warrior, a teacher, and a symbol of what humans could offer. Yet she knew she had one final test to honor him publicly and show the Krell that he had earned his place. "Human," she said quietly as they paused on the ledge. Ethan looked up. "Today, we face the final challenge. The Raiders have fortified a stronghold ahead. If we succeed, it will prove once and for all that humans are not nothing, that even the smallest, quietest warrior can change the course of battle." Ethan nodded. "Then let's be ready. Caution, planning, and protecting the team is more important than pride." The group moved carefully toward the stronghold. Jagged rocks and crumbling cliffs surrounded the path, making each step dangerous. Small alien scouts appeared, but Ethan's sensors predicted their movements. He guided the humans and Krell around traps, avoiding ambushes and leading the unit toward an approach that minimized risk. Kayla fought alongside him, adjusting her strategy based on his advice. For the first time, she followed, rather than leading blindly with pride. As they approached the stronghold, alarms rang out. The raiders had spotted them. Creatures with sharp claws and armored hides poured from the entrances, surrounding the unit. Chaos erupted, but Ethan's calm was the anchor. "Form a defensive line," he instructed, pointing to positions along the rocks. "Use the ledges, fire where necessary, and protect the wounded." Kayla moved forward, but this time she was coordinated with him. She swung her blade, not recklessly but strategically, cutting down raiders while leaving openings for the unit to advance. Humans and Krell followed Ethan's directions, trusting his calm judgment. The battlefield was tense, chaotic, but organized under his guidance. Several warriors were injured. Ethan carried one human on his back, placing him behind cover, while using his energy devices to block attacks. Kayla cut down enemies that approached, her movements precise and deadly. She watched him, amazed at his balance, skill, and courage. He did not fight with pride or anger, only with purpose. After hours of struggle, the unit breached the stronghold's main gate. The raiders inside were fewer but more dangerous. Ethan led a small team to disable traps and open paths for the main group. Kayla followed, striking with calculated power, while he used strategy to avoid unnecessary danger. Together, they cleared the stronghold. Finally, the last raider fell. Silence descended on the battlefield. Dust and smoke rose from broken walls and scorched ground. The warriors counted their wounded and dead. Surprisingly, the losses were minimal, thanks to Ethan's careful planning and calm leadership. Kayla stood beside him, breathing heavily. She looked at the human she had once called nothing and realized the truth. He had done more than survive, more than fight. He had led, protected, and taught by example. The Krell surrounding them could not deny it. "All of you," Kayla shouted, raising her blade high. "Hear this. This human, Ethan Brooks, has proven that strength is not only muscle and blood. He has saved warriors, guided us, and survived battles that would have destroyed any of us. He is a true warrior." The Krell murmured in shock, then erupted in a roar of approval. Some warriors even knelt in respect. Humans cheered quietly, grateful and relieved. Ethan stood still, calm, his eyes on Kayla. He did not seek glory, he only did what had to be done. Kayla approached him, her expression serious but respectful. "I was wrong," she admitted. "I called you nothing. I doubted humans and I judged by pride alone. You have shown me the truth. Honor, courage, and strength can come in many forms. You are no longer nothing." Ethan nodded slightly. "Thank you. I did not fight for praise. I fought for survival, for everyone to make it through. Kayla extended her hand. He took it. The gesture was simple, yet it symbolized more than words could say. Trust, respect, and acknowledgement had been earned. For the first time, Krell and human stood side by side, equal in courage and determination. After the stronghold, the unit rested briefly. Kayla trained beside Ethan, practicing techniques she had learned from him. He guided her with patience, showing how awareness and strategy could enhance power. The Krell warriors watched and began to practice quietly, learning from the human who had proven them wrong. As night fell, the campfire glowed over the plateau. The stars sparkled above, silent witnesses to the change that had taken place. Kayla sat close to Ethan, cleaning her blade and reflecting. She had learned humility and respect, understanding that a warrior's worth was measured not only by strength but by courage, wisdom, and the will to protect others. "Human," she said softly, "I am honored to fight beside you, and more, I am glad you are here." The strongest warriors do not always roar the loudest, Ethan smiled faintly, and the quietest can still make the greatest difference. They looked out over the canyon, knowing the dangers had not ended. The border world still held threats, and their mission was far from over. Yet a new understanding had been forged. Humans were no longer weak helpers. They were capable, brave, and worthy of respect. The Krell and humans together prepared for the journey ahead. Warriors once proud now recognized a truth they had ignored. Strength came in many forms, and courage could be quiet, careful, and strategic. Ethan Brooks, once called nothing, had become a symbol of hope, endurance, and honor. And Kayla Var, once proud and unyielding, had learned the hardest lesson of all. Sometimes the strongest warrior is the one who stands quietly, watches carefully, and refuses to give up. The stars shone above Varka 9, silent witnesses to a new era. The human who had been called nothing had changed the hearts of warriors, proven the worth of courage, and shown that strength was not always loud. And as Ethan and Kayla prepared for the next challenge, one truth remained clear: being called nothing does not make you weak. It only gives you the chance to show what true strength really is. Strike Unit 7 moved forward together, stronger than before. Humans and Krell side by side, ready to face any danger. And at the center of it all, Ethan Brooks walked calmly, silently, and with the quiet strength that had proven more powerful than any roar, any blade, or any pride. The journey continued, but the lesson endured. True warriors are not measured by what others see, but by what they do when no one is watching. And in that truth, Ethan was no longer nothing. He was everything.